Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are here to talk about Supercharge Open Enrollment, proven communication practices to make this your best year yet.
We're really
So,
glad you guys could sign on today.
absolutely. Let's tell you just a little bit about us to get started. And I know it's early in the broadcast, but if you'd like to put any of your content or your information in the chat, say hi, say where you're coming from. We'd love to hear from you. We're hoping that this is just going to be a fun conversation with me and Mary Pat and anyone who would like to participate to kind of talk about open enrollment and how to make this year great. We're always looking to continuously improve and just get better little by little. So if we can kind of get started with some introductions. I'm Rebecca Reeves, and I've worked at WordsFresh now almost 10 years, and I am the Director of Client Success at WordsFresh. I've worked on many different open enrollment projects for Fortune 500 companies and some smaller organizations as well. And so we're really just excited to hear from you and to tell you a little bit about what we've learned along the way. Mary Pat, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Mary Pat Nyman. I'm President and Message Strategist with WordsFresh. We have had some really interesting experiences over the years with benefits communications, particularly with open enrollment. So we're excited to tell you a little bit about what we've learned and give you a peek inside some other companies and what they might be doing, just to give you some ideas, whether you do this work yourself, whether you engage your internal communications partners in your organization, or whether you choose to use a communications partner like WordsFresh. No matter, I think you'll find something valuable here. That's our intention today, is to just give you some things to think about.
Right. Yep. We're just looking to be helpful. And again, as we go along, we're hoping this can be just a conversation. So if you have any questions, please add them in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're listening in on this after our recording, feel free to reach out to us as well. Our contact information will be at the end if you have any questions about anything, or if you're interested in talking any more about benefits. So a little bit about us. At WordsFresh, we understand the complexities of benefits and transform them into something dynamic and fresh. So who are we and why are we here? So WordsFresh is a full-service communications agency. We have a real passion for strategy and storytelling delivered with sizzle. We have deep experience supercharging the employee experience, total rewards, and benefits communications. So we're hoping that whether, as Mary Pat said, whether you're in communications, whether you're in benefits, if you're a leader, if you're a manager, we're hoping that you'll have something to take away from this conversation. Here are a few of the industries that we serve. We have a lot of manufacturing experience, working with food and beverage, utilities, healthcare and hospitals. And so really it spans across the board. But we've seen some commonalities among all of these industries, and we're hoping that you'll be able to take something away from that.
I love it when there's this kind of cross-pollination between, among various industries that we're privileged to see inside of. So I think that's exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah, because a lot of folks who work at have worked at their organization for many years, and so they don't necessarily see what some of these other companies are doing behind the scenes. So this is a great opportunity for everyone to kind of learn from each other. And it's something that we do every day, where we learn from clients all the time, best practices. All right, so let's talk a little bit about why you're here, why we think you're here. And this is just a quick poll. Put your answer in the chat, or kind of raise your hand if you don't feel super confident. So how confident are you that your employees understand their benefits? So I'll just give you a second. and you can rate it percentage wise. How confident are you? Okay, so if you are not super confident, you're not alone. This statistic is from the International Foundation of Employee Benefits Plans in 2023 that 80% of HR leaders say their employees never read their benefit materials. So, Mary Pat, why is this a problem?
Other than it's just demoralizing, um, yeah, it's a real problem. If you're not reading the materials, you can't understand them. You know, if we're over here with helping people, we're trying to help them understand, but they're not even reading them. You know, it's a big communications challenge. And that's what it is. It's about communications. There's nothing wrong with employees. There's nothing wrong with their ability to understand. It's on communications to make these materials that people want to read, that they're engaged with, and that they understand. So that's a communications role. And the reason why this is so important, I mean, this is a financial problem because companies make huge, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, they make huge investments in your benefits programs and all the many benefits that you provide, and health benefits and many other benefits as well, what you provide to employees. And if they don't value those, if they don't understand it and value it, you're really not getting the maximum return on the investment you've made in those programs. So there's a financial issue here.
Yep. Sometimes we say your benefits guide might be the most expensive document that people never read.
Yeah. I know
So
that hurts our hearts. We hate that.
yeah, it does because we know that the benefits folks put so much work and effort into choosing plans for the employees, trying to make the right decisions for them, giving them great offerings, negotiating, and then for employees not to even recognize or not even take a minute to read the materials, you know, that does hurt. But what do you think, Mary Pat, the reason is that employees are not reading their materials? And I don't think it's just because they're not intelligent. I'll
Of
just say that.
course not. No, of course not. I think there's just a sense of overwhelm. People have their regular jobs to do. They may not be speaking HR terms, so maybe and it's going to vary by company, but it could be that this very logical explanation of benefits they're just not terms that they're familiar with. It's just that extra bit of friction trying to get past the initial push that it takes to be able to read a document. But there are lots of reasons, and I think a lot of times it has to do with simply time. You know, everyone is busy. What can we do as communicators to help them make decisions efficiently and then feel really good about those decisions themselves? And then also, on behalf of the business, what programs do you want them involved in? How will you benefit if they, for example, there are more people who access your mental health care benefits? I mean, that could really make an impact on daily work. So there are lots of reasons that we want people to read and understand their benefits materials.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a huge perk for employees that sometimes they just don't even, if they don't understand it, then they can't appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, so here are a few of the things that we hear, and raise your hand or put sounds familiar in chat if this sounds familiar to you. So we invest a significant amount of time and resources to communicate, but it seems like it's just noise. My team answers the same questions every year. Open enrollment is a huge lift. It's a lot of work, and managing all those details is completely overwhelming. The plans and decisions seem overly complicated. Even leaders are confused about their options. And that's one we heard fairly recently, just points to the fact that this isn't about level of education or anything like that. If even leaders are confused about their options, then something needs to change when it comes to communications. So we have great benefits, but employees don't take advantage of them. There's nothing that makes our benefits special. So, Mary Pat, is there anything that you wanted to add to this list of what we hear?
Well, actually, that last item there was one I heard recently. One of our clients said, our benefits are table stakes. You have to have this level of benefits, or you're not gonna employ people. So why do we need to do anything special about it? And I would say if your benefits and the benefits of your competitor, in terms of employment, another employer, if your benefits are the same as theirs, but you communicate about them more clearly in a more engaging fashion, you help employees understand the value, then your benefits are better through communications.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the communication itself is a benefit.
Yeah,
Um, if you
a good way
can
to
make
say it.
it easier for employees, then you're improving the employee experience just by the fact that you're communicating it clearly.
Hmm.
All right, so let's get to the meat. How can you supercharge your open enrollment? And even though it's July, but the time we're recording this, open enrollment is coming up quick. So this is a great opportunity just to kind of take a step back and think about how we are approaching open enrollment this year.
And I'd just like to say that our clients, we are engaged in meetings right now, um, planning meetings for communications right now here. Mid-July is when we're recording.
Yeah. And I heard from one of my clients is a takeaway after they wrapped up last year, and they said the reality is we can never start early enough.
That's the truth.
And that's not just selfish from our part. We like to start early so that we have more time, but it's also less stress on the folks who work at the company, the clients as well. So today we're going to talk about 3 proven practices to supercharge your efforts. And this is something that we've developed through our research, our benchmarking, and of course our experience working with all different types of clients across all different industries. So we'll go through each one of these in a little more depth, but develop a multi-purpose strategy, clarify and streamline based on project goals, based on that strategy, make benefits approachable and human. So we'll talk a little bit about what that means and how it is that we help clients do that. All right. And as we're kind of going through this, I would really encourage you to take just a couple minutes and jot down a few thoughts as we're talking about this, because this is an activity that you can do today. You might have to ask a few questions, but it's something that you can get started on right away as you're developing a multi-purpose strategy, which sounds fairly complicated, but I think some of these questions will be helpful in kind of exploring that.
I'd like to mention here too that this multi-purpose strategy, what we're seeing, this our clients who have a mindset of a multi-purpose strategy are really demonstrating their own personal leadership within their companies. So you might keep that in mind as we go through here.
Yeah, very good point. So a multi-purpose strategy, what we mean by that is that it's a plan that accomplishes more than one goal. And here's a few examples of that. Really everyone right now is being asked to do better with less. One of my coworkers mentioned that better with less. And I think it's just the case across the board as a lot of companies are going through transition, that you're asked to do more, but you're asked to take it to that next level. So it really makes sense to ask, what can open enrollment do to help you be better with less? So here are a few ways our clients have achieved 2 or even 3 for 1 wins. If you tie that message to a business initiative, think about initiatives and what initiatives and priorities are going on right now in your business. You can tie a message to that. Building the employer brand by posting externally. What are the stories that you can tell that's not giving anything away, that's proprietary or confidential? But what are those stories that you can tell externally to kind of build your reputation, build your employer brand? And then furthering your total rewards identity. Maybe your company has a brand or identity around total rewards, maybe not, but open enrollment is a great opportunity to start to build that in order to improve that employee experience over time. Okay, so we're just going to take a quick look at this Venn diagram here, and we're going to be coming back to this several times over the presentation, and we'll get to what that one story means in the middle. But what we're doing here with a multi-purpose strategy is building those circles around the sides. So what is the context? What's happening in the business? What's changing this year? Employees and stakeholders. Who are your employees and stakeholders? What do they care about? Who are your audiences? That's the number one rule of marketing, which Mary Pat, I know you always like to borrow from marketing ideas.
I do. I really consider all of life to be marketing. Parenting is marketing. You're just trying to persuade people to do the right thing, right? Everything is marketing. And so, yeah, knowing your audience, super key.
Right. And then goals. What is it that you're trying to achieve this year? So we'll go through each one of these. So first off, context. Understand the context. So feel free, again, to jot down some ideas as we're asking some of these questions. What is changing this year when it comes to the plan? Is this an active or passive enrollment year? Are there any benefits that are changing? How will it affect employees? For example, price increases. We know that that's a big pain point this year. You might not have all the details yet, but you probably have an idea of some of the big picture things that might be changing. So plan changes, new offerings, additional technology. We know a lot of companies are implementing AI into the enrollment system. So is that something that's going to be changing that needs some communication about? Are there any changes to the actual process of enrollment that are coming? What metrics do you have from last year? Metrics is always something we ask for from our clients, and to be able to see what was successful and what could be an opportunity or something to build on for this year. Are there particular benefits that you want to emphasize this year? For instance, it might be that it's nothing new, but it might be something like, for instance, if your company is going back to work, then in the office more, then maybe it's an opportunity to emphasize on-site wellness programs. So even though it's not something new, you're emphasizing it in a new way, and maybe employees might not have been aware of that before. Mary Pat, do you have any other thoughts on, what's changing this year and what might affect the context?
Yeah, I think you hit on what types of changes typically impact the people working in open enrollment. But again, I think that when we look a little broader, you can demonstrate leadership capabilities in the company by thinking about things like, well, what's changing, not what's changing, what's transitioning in the business as a whole. Return to the office certainly is one. Is there a big transition to a new leadership team? Are certain roles being added or being subtracted? Just not that you would necessarily address them specifically and directly in your communications, but you want to be conscious of them when you want to read the room before you deliver communications around benefits.
Yeah. What can happen, Mary Pat, when the team does not take context into consideration when it comes to a communications campaign such as open enrollment?
Yeah, I mean, there's gosh, I saw one study that said there's a significant number of people, I think like 60% of the people would consider actually changing jobs, like going to a different company if they had a bad experience in open enrollment. Really? You would change your job? You would change positions, change companies over that? People just get really frustrated, but also can feel not cared for. And I think that benefits is such a personal thing, right? It's, you're affecting my family, and how you communicate, whether you care about me and whether you have any sense of what's going on with me, is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, Mary Pat, that you've written some things about trust, and trust being part of and trust being a way, or open enrollment being a way to build trust. So
Yeah.
maybe we can talk about that on the next slide, because our next section is employees and stakeholders. Who are they, and what do they care about?
Yeah, we are seeing really a crisis of trust right now, just with a lot of things going on in the world. A lot of you may read the trust barometer that comes out each year. It's showing that companies actually are one of the most trusted among the various organizations that people are involved with more so than um, government entities or even non-government agencies. So, but even with that said, it's not great. It's it's just not as poor as some other ones right now. So there is a bit of a crisis of trust. And what we're seeing is that open enrollment can become a test of trust. How much do you really care about me? How are you talking to me? How are you demonstrating what your view is of me as a person? Because my benefits are very personal.
Mhm. Yeah, it's just about empathy, right? Being able to think about your employees and just what it is that they care about right now, what it is that they're going through in their day-to-day work and even their day-to-day lives. For example, where are they working? Trying to understand that again, understanding your audience, where are they coming from? Are they feeling overwhelmed by change right now? And that's something that we see consistently across industries. Really, that employees are just being bombarded with lots of change and transition. So it can be very overwhelming. So thinking about how it is that we present the benefits information in a more digestible, um, easy to grab onto way that makes it easier to understand. Are their inboxes flooded? Are there seasonal work changes? Are they returning to office, as we said earlier? Again, just kind of jot down some ideas of where your employees are right now. And that could even be where they are physically. Are they remote? Are they a restaurant employee in the front line? Are they nurses? Are they factory workers? These are all important considerations, and also thinking about what are those channels that can reach them. And that's a great opportunity to pull in your communications team to be able to leverage all the different channels that are available to you to reach your diverse audiences. Anything else to add, Mary Pat, on the audiences?
No, I think you got it.
Okay, great. All right. So setting SMART goals. SMART goals: specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and timely. I'm a former Girl Scout. Mary Pat, you're a former Girl Scout leader. I remember learning about SMART goals. But why are SMART goals important to set at the beginning of open enrollment?
Well, if you don't know where you're going, you'll never get there. I think it's that extra little, it's a very small percentage of extra effort that will really pay off in the end. When you, at the beginning, say what you're after. And but I think the R in there, realistic, we want to be realistic. We don't want to set a goal that no one can achieve. That's too demoralizing. We want a realistic goal, but we also want it to be that M, which is measurable. And I think that is kind of the brass ring as I look at it. Sometimes we'll send out the survey in advance of a benefits program or an open enrollment program. So then we can measure against it and measure improvements, measure where we need to keep working. Um, but that SMART goal: specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and timely. We're going to do it timely by the end of open enrollment. That's our timely aspect of
Yes, and open enrollment can be very, very timely,
it.
especially when it gets right down to the minute. So thinking about how to that measurement, that's something actually that we ask our clients at the first kickoff meeting is, what does success look like? If you were just to kind of sit back, and this is an activity you could do right now with us, just kind of like sit back, close your eyes, and think. Let's say you're at the end of open enrollment, you're at the end of November, whatever that enrollment period is, and everything went great. You feel awesome about it. What does success look like? Now start to fill in what are the things that indicate success, and then ask yourself, how can we measure that? Um, is it? We've seen folks measure success by having fewer complaints. It might be something anecdotal. Um, like, oh, we really appreciated the process this year. You really did a lot to improve it, or we received fewer questions. Mary Pat uh, mentioned surveys. I think it's really helpful to have a survey right after enrollment, just after they enroll on your platform. If you have a platform that allows for it, have that survey pop up as optional for them, that they can give feedback right away, because that's really when it's top of mind. And that can,
Sometimes even whether they give you feedback says something. You know, if they
yeah,
skip your survey, that they're communicating something.
yeah, absolutely. All right. So point number 2, clarify and streamline based on strategy. So this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. And so we talked about the Venn diagram. We're going to take a look at that again. But in the middle of that Venn diagram is one story. And this is just kind of our approach to how we look at it. But your strategy that you've just created will help you create one story, a single message that ties all those materials together. So Mary Pat, can you tell me, why do we need one story?
Well, we talked earlier about people not reading their materials, or, just being overwhelmed. They're very complex. And we need to help people understand the single most important idea you're trying to get across. This is probably not a practical point. It's probably not a, deadline's November 15th. It's probably not that. It's some other message that we want to make sure that people are receiving, because we want them to value their benefits. And so when you put the context, employees and stakeholders, and goals together, we want to make sure that we're coming to them with a single focused message. And obviously, we're going to have lots of information about various plans and options and things like that, but we want it all delivered under the umbrella of a single story.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
it helps your communications become more than the sum of their parts, because they're going to be touched multiple times, most likely, by the communications from open enrollment. And you want it to be consistent every time that they see it. You want them getting that single message. I always say you can deliver one message, or you can deliver 0. Those are your choices. You really can't deliver multiple messages in a single campaign, multiple lead messages in a single campaign.
yeah, I've heard you describe it before as the tip of the spear.
Hmm.
Can you kind of use that metaphor to kind of bring that to light?
Sure. Oh, Rebecca, you've been around us too long. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Yeah, tip of the spear is one of my favorite analogies. No one hits a target by using the broad side of a spear. You have to turn the spear this way, and the point will hit the target, and then all the rest of the shaft can go through too. But you really do have to have that sharp point to get it to stick. And no one hits with the broad side of all these messages. You have to lead with one, and then you have the opportunity, the privilege, to discuss all the other points that you wanted to make as well. But you got to have that opening. You got to have that point, or you get nothing.
Yeah. My background is in digital cinema, making movies, filmmaking. That's what I studied in school. And that's what we call a hook. At the beginning of a really good movie, you always have a hook.
Ah,
So
yeah.
that's another way to kind of think about it too.
Good point.
And we'll get into some examples of what one story looks like. I've heard it referred to as a message line, a campaign line. But really, it's just a very simple, easy to remember message that is in every single deliverable. All right, so more tips to simplify. You really can't simplify, in my opinion, unless you strategize first. So if you have the strategy down pat, then you can figure out what are the things that we can remove without losing something important. So determine like what are the pain points for open enrollment, and how can you address those. So example of a pain point that one of our clients had is that the actual enrollment process was too complicated and they had too many tools for employees to understand. They'd already paid for those tools. Those tools were not going away. So we had to clearly explain what each tool was for, and how that employee can go through the open enrollment journey. So we created a video, and it's probably not the most flashy looking video, but it clearly communicated how employees should go through that benefits journey. And we understand everybody's going to do it from a different angle, and that's totally okay. But we wanted to really ease that process a little bit to make it simpler for them. Oh, sorry. Okay, so develop a comprehensive communications plan and timeline for rollout. That might sound a bit intimidating, but we know that there are so many moving pieces to open enrollment. Do you have print? Do you have your intranet? Do you have newsletters that are going out? Do you have a mailer? Do you have in-office collateral, digital signage? These are just a few of the possible channels and ways that you're communicating to employees. So having a really clear communications plan and timeline is going to be super important to establish upfront. And we actually have a little timeline template. It's from a very high level, but maybe that'll get you started with an ideal timeline for open enrollment. And then another tip.
Sorry, I think too with the communications plan, when you look at that, it's important to see what you've done in the past, but also to take a beat and look at what might be more effective than what you've had in the past. That's not always doing more; it may be doing different. Um, there have been clients who did too much, and we needed to just be really simple and clear and just fewer. That sometimes this happens. More often, it's a channel that they're not using. That somebody takes a beat to think about it, and they're saying, "Wow, we never used this channel where employees are a lot, and we just never used this way of talking to employees, and this would be great." That's what that means by comprehensive. We want to just take a look at, across the board, how are we reaching them?
Yeah. And Mary Pat, when should they be doing this?
Now, today.
Yesterday?
I think sometimes people wait until the materials are created. I mean, logically, that makes sense. I'll get all my materials created, and then I'll plan with how I'm going to roll them all out. But the plan comes first, because some of those materials may need to be created differently or in different order. Maybe some you don't even need. So starting with the communications plan and calling it that actually is really powerful to help focus all the work that comes after that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, another tip that we've found as well is that it's very helpful to us to start with the most impactful deliverable. Now, what I mean by that, it might be your benefits guide. It might be your intranet if you want to go digital first this year. But really, what is the deliverable that is going to be the most comprehensive deliverable that employees are going to be using the most? And that can be really helpful because you start with one source of truth. And once you have approval on that and it's gone through all the reviews and everything, then you can take that and parse it out for all these other deliverables. And we found that to be just a really simple way of streamlining.
Makes your life easier.
Absolutely. Yes. It makes everyone's life easier because that means that you don't have your legal person reviewing 10 different deliverables. You have your legal person reviewing one deliverable, and then you're taking that deliverable and then putting it out on all these other platforms. Okay, so we talked about the timeline and the kind of the urgency to get started, and this is not only for our benefit when our clients start in July or even June, but having the annual enrollment kickoff early is just so important to get all those ducks in a row, because when you get those plan materials finalized, you're ready to hit go. So at this point right now, you can start defining your strategy and goals, coordinating with stakeholders, getting estimates from partners. If you choose to use a communications partner, pull in your communications team. If you're a benefits professional, if you're a communications professional, host a kickoff for everybody who's going to be involved. That way, everyone can have a say in here are the goals, here are the strategy. Talk to your stakeholders, go back to this recording later on and talk about the context, talk about the audiences, talk about the goals. And then build and design. That can happen in August and September. Print deadlines can come up really fast. So we have to work back from those. There are certain legal requirements of when you have to have material in your employees' inboxes or in their mailboxes sometimes. So working back from those drop dead deadlines is going to be really helpful for you. And then, communicating to employees early as well. What are some of the things that you can do to show them a sneak peek, preview? Are there countdowns you can do? What are the things that you can do to help educate employees about not only the fact that open enrollment is coming, but what are those other messages you can deliver along the way to educate them and teach them? And then the rollout and support, rolling out core campaign messages and enrollment instructions, offering support during open enrollment or annual enrollment. And then once you're done with that, you can start developing the new plan year documents. It just all starts over again. Anything to add to this timeline, Mary Pat?
No, I think, obviously every company is going to have different specifics, but it does, I think, illustrate the importance of those print deadlines are actually they kind of drive your timeline. But yeah.
So this is actually an editable PowerPoint table that can be modified for you. So we'll send that after we're done with this webinar, and that way you can edit it to your heart's content. Might be a helpful resource for you. Again, this is not a comprehensive communications plan, but it is a high-level timeline of when things often happen when open enrollment starts at the end of or around November or mid-October. All right, so point number 3, make benefits approachable and human. So this is a fun one too. So this is our last point before we get into a few samples that you can take a look at. These are real case studies that we'll be sharing with you. But the making benefits approachable and human, why is that important, Mary Pat? Why should I care if it's approachable and human?
Well, as I mentioned previously, that benefits is very personal. This is, these are not just widgets. These are programs that impact my life, my children's lives, my spouse's life. There are things that have to do with my own health care. And I want to see, in my benefits, I want to make sure that I understand them, that they're part of how I operate, how I work my life, how I do life. I like to be able to have this be part of how I stay healthy and in many ways, as we described that. And then human, I want to know that other people have used these benefits in different times of their lives like I am now. I want to know that they're like me and that, oh, this is how it really works in real life. I mean, who of us has a mentor in the area of benefits? So this is our opportunity to do that.
Yeah. And, we see all the time that, your broker does an awesome job of helping you with all kinds of things to do with open enrollment and benefits. Yes. But what they give to you is something that is not very approachable for an employee audience. If I have to read through your entire plan, and it's all sounds like legalese to me. I'm not an HR professional. If I have to read something that just sounds like it's just coming, right from HR, coming right from your broker, I'm going to zone out pretty quickly.
Natural.
Yeah. So let's talk about how to avoid that. So a couple of ways that we found helpful is kind of select some key benefits that you want to emphasize. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but if there's a particular benefit that maybe you haven't highlighted in the past and you think would be helpful, then ask yourself, what is the benefit of the benefit? Mary Pat, what does that mean? What is the benefit of the benefit?
Well, any kind of communications, we're always helping people think about what's in it for me. That's all we all really care about, isn't it, as humans? And so this is another way of saying that. What's in it for me? What's the benefit to me of if I engage with this and participate?
Great. And then create those employee stories to demonstrate And that can be a true story, or it can be a story that's kind of a compilation of several employee experiences. Really, it's helping employees understand the journey that they're on, and just helps those benefits feel more real. And we'll show a couple examples of that later on too. But you can edit those stories for use in all different channels. They could be call outs in your benefits guides. They could be in your intranet, your news, your newsletter. They could even be on external channels like LinkedIn. Again, we don't want to violate any HIPAA regulations or anything like that. So that's why anonymous stories are helpful, or like a compilation of several employee experiences. Okay, so I'm going to pause real quick before we go on to our few stories, just to see, do we have any questions from anybody before we move on?
I see a question here, Rebecca. Somebody's wondering how you mine for those stories. Where do you get those stories?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and that's one that we get all the time. So some of our clients tell us that they have, these health and wellness fairs, and sometimes they hear stories from that. Any chance that you get to talk to real employees and get face to face to them, you'll probably hear some really interesting stories. So I would suggest, even if you don't have that person's name, jot down that story, and be sure to come back to it, and remember that over time. I think that could be a helpful one. What do you think, Mary Pat?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, if your company has any kind of a survey that you do where you could ask really specifically an open-ended question, give me an example of how you used a benefit. That really, we're not trying to highlight particular people, obviously for HIPAA rules, but there are stories that are rich in human experience that we can bring to the fore, that so people can really see how benefits can affect them in their lives, and they feel a sense of connection to the humanity that's really embedded in this whole subject.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So if and Mary Pat, you'll have to tell me if there's any other questions before before I move on.
Well, I think we're good.
Okay, great. So let's tell a few stories, and this is really where it all comes to life. This first example is a from a quick service restaurant. It's a company in the quick service restaurant industry, and they were really navigating a lot of changing teams, complicated messaging, complicated enrollment process, and very tight timelines. So the scope of work for this included the entire open enrollment process, from developing that creative, overseeing reviews, approvals, and distribution of materials. All right, so I'm going to come back to this one last time, my favorite Venn diagram. So the context here was that they had a new strategy for total rewards and a history of a complicated enrollment process. Their employees and stakeholders included executive leadership. They had office employees, frontline employees that were working in the restaurants, managers of those frontline employees. They also had multiple brands that they had to communicate to. And their population really spanned multiple generations. So they had different levels of comfort with technology as well. And then their goals were to simplify open enrollment, and their goal was no complaints, and to really make benefits fresh and engaging this year. All right, so their one story was build your recipe to live well. Now, Live Well was their total rewards brand. So this campaign line complemented their total rewards program and served as a cornerstone for all communications. And I love this line. Mary Pat, what are your thoughts on this line?
Yeah, it does a lot of things well. It certainly is a nod to their industry. It also puts an interesting emphasis on personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You have the power to build your recipe to live well. It does a nice job of doing all of these things, speaking to everyone at the same time, and it's a nice it's a nice tip of the spear for them. They can still deliver a lot of different messages, but this was the message that was delivered in every single deliverable that they had. And we kind of started with conducting a virtual workshop with members of their communications and benefits teams, that kickoff meeting, to familiarize ourselves with their goals, audiences, and brand. We help them develop what is your strategy. And then we help them develop a benefits philosophy, this campaign line or one story, and then a unique visual identity based on the company's new brand guidelines to be used throughout all communications. So this was a fresh visual identity that makes materials approachable and in line with their new brand. They had a communications toolkit with built-in messaging and timing, creative asset, as well as creative assets for use by communicators at the corporate and brand level. And then we really helped them with the entire project management process as well. So it was just really neat to see their new brand colors come to life in this beautiful guide. All right, so benefits guides are a great opportunity to incorporate those charts, graphs, QR codes to videos, and linking to more resources. This was their central point of truth, and I really like how everything came together and like in the charts to make it really simple for employees to understand and see. And then we also did a takeover on their intranet with pop-ups and banner ads. It really placed open enrollment at center stage on their intranet. And then we also communicated to those frontline employees too. There was a communications toolkit for the general managers at the restaurants that they could then cascade to their teams. And we received very positive. The HR and communications team received very positive feedback from this. They did a survey right after the open enrollment process on their enrollment platform, and employees said that, or 4.5. Employees rated the benefits 4.5 out of 5. They were very satisfied with their benefits options. So another great example of how communicating the process clearly in a fresh way can change how employees feel about their benefits. All right. Anything else to mention about this case study, Mary Pat? I know we have about 10 minutes left, so
yeah. No, you nailed it.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'll run through these fairly quickly, but I know that these case studies can be really helpful as you're starting to envision how you want to go about open enrollment this year. This was a benefits guide that was created with employees in mind, as really all of our benefits guides are. But a university hospital needed to transform a dense, content-heavy document into a compelling benefits guide that positions the organization as a top employer. So going back to one story, this was, one story, or as they called it, a message line that provided a theme for the document and all materials relating to open enrollment. And it was powering you for life. And as we said, you refers to the fact that this was a university hospital. And it says, from the time you're hired to when you retire, our benefits give you the power to get the most out of life. All right, and that helped tie everything together. And they had very text-heavy pages that were dense and difficult to get through. So we helped restructure that and rewrite that so that their benefits could be clear right from the outset. And then we looked for opportunities to reorganize the guide in a way that grouped topics in a way that makes sense and that would be easy for searching, because that's an important way that employees, it's an important reason that employees like benefits guides, is because they can easily search a PDF.
This is a really simple tip we wanted to put here for you. This is not brain surgery, but you can look at the before is the photo or the image in the back, what's inside. And we transitioned it to this one that's in the front. which categorized information. And something, I don't want to say it's simple, but it's not easy to categorize information. All of us as humans, we can process information more readily when it's given to us in categories. And so you can see at the image that's on top, it has the categories are listed in red. The simple change that made a big difference in their guide.
Yeah, great point. All right, and this is a story about adding the human element. When Mark met his little girl for the first time, he didn't smell like cigarettes. He smelled like dad. So this was a call out that was intended to emphasize the smoking cessation program that the company had. So just a great example of how to kind of pull on those heartstrings with a story that's kind of a compilation of employees' experiences.
And this story came back to the question someone asked about where to get these stories. This came from an offhand comment from one of the employees who was successful in his smoking cessation program. He said, he quit smoking because he didn't want to smell like cigarettes for his kid, and we took that and made that into something that, everyone can relate to without stepping on his HIPAA rights.
Yeah.
His name was not Mark.
It gets me a little choked up every time, Mary Pat. Okay. All right. So using benefits to build culture. This is our last one. I'm going to just run through it real quick. It's not super long. But when this manufacturing company was acquired by a new corporation, the company needed benefits communications to make a good first impression. And after the transition, they were among the earliest and most carefully read materials distributed to employees. We sometimes talk about how it's an awesome opportunity with open enrollment that you get to communicate with every employee in your company. And it's just it was a huge opportunity for them to make the most out of that.
A great example of the dual purpose strategy.
Yeah, love that. So their one story was make it yours. This one story empowered employees to make decisions about their benefits and to emphasize the need for employees to reimagine the company as theirs.
2 for 1.
Love it. And then after that transition, there were some of the earliest and most carefully read materials by employees. And you can see from the images that these are real employees at this company. And so this was a very cool opportunity to encourage pride in the company that they were building.
We don't always recommend using employee images. This was such a special case, and the company was, our client really felt like it was important given the context of what was happening, that they really needed people to see that their friends and colleagues were still here, even though they were going through a big transition. So it made sense in this case.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the other good thing about it is that with benefits, it's not evergreen. So sometimes one of the issues that we come into using photos of real employees is that what happens if that employee leaves? What happens if that employee is no longer in good standing? This had a specific beginning and end date for when these materials were put out. So they didn't have to continually look back at it and update it.
Exactly.
All right. And they continue to grow year after year. And, this is just another example of a different year that I thought was just so beautiful. But we've actually worked with this company over 10 years, and we've helped keep their benefits communications fresh year after year. We've been very honored to work with this company. All right. And so we just are wrapping up here with 4 minutes to spare. Just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to be here and to if you're listening to this after the fact, thank you so much for being here. It's been a really great opportunity to talk with you, Mary Pat, and kind of bring some of these proven practices to light. What a great chance to be able to talk about open enrollment and some of the work that we've done.
I think you can tell that we are kind of passionate about this work.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we know it's important because it's important to employees. And yeah, we have a heart for employees.
Hmm.
So we're going to offer a few resources for you if you've made it this far along. The recording we will send you afterwards. We will also send you that timeline template so that you can update that. And then we also have a guide that's 7 proven steps to help employees actually understand and use their benefits. And so we really hope that that will be helpful to you. And we hope that this conversation was helpful to you in some way as well. If it was, please leave a comment in chat. Feel free to reach out to us. Again, Rebecca Reeves and Mary Pat Nyman is here. Here's our information. Feel free to reach out, ask us questions, or tell us your own stories.
Thanks very much. Hope to talk again soon.
Yeah. All right. And Shelby, do we have any questions in the chat at all that we can answer in our next 2 minutes?
So here's a question. We haven't set the strategy yet. Isn't it too early to bring in an agency?
Yeah, that's a great question. So no, not at all. Actually, we this is the perfect time to bring in an agency, or at least we find that we love it when clients will come to us prior to really setting that strategy, because then we get to have a seat at that table and be able to bring that communications brain to your particular to your particular challenges for open enrollment. What would you say, Mary Pat?
Yeah, we like to say that if you're considering an agency, I will say that we enjoy untangling the Christmas tree lights. If you know how that is, if you just balled up your Christmas tree lights, how some people just would take that, throw it in the trash. We take the tangle of Christmas tree lights and tease that apart and help make things simple and come alongside you and help you set that strategy. So no, we would love to work with you on that.
Yeah, don't feel like you have to come with a brief.
Yes, a lot of people feel like they've heard this thing, creative brief. I need to come with it written down. No, let's just have a conversation and see how. Let's just do an exploration, I say.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't charge for that. So
Mm,
feel free to reach out. We'll just have a conversation and, no obligation or pressure whatsoever.
absolutely.
All right. So I guess we're coming up on time. Again, thank you all so much. Feel free to follow up with those questions afterward, and we're more than happy to answer anything else.
Yep, feel free to shoot us, either of us, an email. Have a great day.